Right now at 6, all eyes on what could be a dangerous winter storm.
If I have to stay home, I'll be ready.
If you have flexible weekend plans, maybe consider canceling them.
The timing on the snow and ice and how to stay safe when temperatures plummet. Plus,
it's hard to put into words how important it's been because it's always been there.
a lumber mill closes for good, leaving dozens out of work and a town with an uncertain future. And later, the local bird that won't fly south.
All right, everybody got goals and aspirations. You know how you get those? You be the best where you're at.
As Ducks coach Dan Lanning puts a social media storm to rest.
Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm David Molko. It is 44 degrees on this Thursday evening, likely the warmest it will be until well past the weekend. And you know what, schools? They're not taking any chances with the snow, ice, and wind on the way. You can see the early releases for Friday already on the bottom of your screen. And just into the newsroom, Portland Public Schools deciding it will let out 3 hours early on Friday. We have team coverage tonight. John Adams in Northwest Portland, where people are stocking up. Sydney Dorner on how to stay safe in extreme cold. But first to Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. So Matt, what are things looking like as far as the timing and intensity of the storm?
Yeah, the timing has been pushed back a bit, and the intensity of the snowfall, who gets how much snow, who gets the heaviest, that's still in flux a bit. But we've got a better idea as to how that's going to play out. That said, it could still change as we go through tomorrow because the details, it all comes out of the details at this point. Portland right now, we've got rain showers and 43 degrees, and some of the showers tonight could actually bring the snow down to about 500 feet. But that is not the thing that we're forecasting and worried about as we go into the weekend. That is not why we have a winter storm watch across all of Western Oregon, winter storm warnings farther east. That's for what comes tomorrow night, and on Saturday. Only Southwest Oregon not under some sort of winter weather watch or warning today across the state. So we've got all this moisture out here in the Pacific, relatively warm air as well. There's going to be a storm that takes shape here, develops and moves onto the Oregon coast somewhere. Exactly where matters, and it matters a lot. Like if it goes by Newport versus down to Coos Bay, big difference as to who gets snow versus freezing rain and who gets how much. Anyway, that's ingredient number one, all that moisture. Ingredient number two is up here in BC and Alberta and northern Canada, and look at these temperatures well below zero up there. -4 at Kamloops and Cranbrook. It's 23 in Spokane right now, even in Omak is at 10. So that's the cold Arctic air. That's ingredient number two. When those two get together, that's when Portland gets a major snow event, and that's what it looks like is going to happen tomorrow. So here's the timing on this. We're still above freezing tomorrow at 7 a.m. By about 1 p.m., we should be dropping down to about 30. Maybe a little bit later. These timings may change a little bit by a few hours. But the point is we'll be dropping below freezing sometime tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, and then we get a little burst of snow tomorrow. Not expecting a lot of snow tomorrow, but we are expecting a lot of snow as we go into Saturday as the cold air becomes more greatly entrenched. Storm comes into the coast and throws a bunch of moisture in over the top of that. So again, the cold, that arrives midday tomorrow. You'll notice it. Strong east winds kick in. Little light snow tomorrow night. Heavy snow Saturday. And in the gorge, big concerns for major blizzard conditions there, and also great concern for a big ice storm in parts of the Willamette Valley. I'll have details on this a little bit later, David.
All right, thank you, Matt. Let's get to John Adams now at the stadium. Fred Meyer along West Burnside. John, we heard Matt talking about all the right ingredients there. The clock is ticking. What are you seeing tonight?
Well, David, we're seeing shoppers stocking up on these much-needed items before the start of this winter storm. The foot traffic at the stadium, Fred Meyer, has been steady in and out since we got here earlier this afternoon, and we saw the same thing earlier today in Raleigh Hills. Area shoppers brought their lists of necessities to local grocery stores today, grabbing the essentials before the snow and ice arrives.
But if anybody was listening to Matt Zaffino last night, then you know that there's a good chance we might get some nasty weather.
And that warning is what brought Dale Davidson to the Fred Meyer in Raleigh Hills to stock up on what her family needs to ride out the storm.
I plan like 3 or 4 meals and try to get everything I need for those items in case I don't want to go out. I'm kind of afraid to drive in the snow or the ice, so if I have to stay home, I'll be ready.
A representative from Fred Meyer told us they've seen an increase in people both in store and ordering online. District Manager Julie Offlick explained some of the items the store recommends shoppers have on hand at home and in their vehicles during winter weather.
The bottled water is always great. I mean, pipes can freeze, right? When you're stocking your car, pick up blankets, pick up granola bars. These are some of the faves at my house. Of course, the kiddo likes their goldfish crackers, and they've got their energy bars too. So just some of those shelf-stable things with high protein as well.
For people that have to go out during the storm, TriMet recommends people use their services to keep as many cars off the road as possible.
We always encourage people to use TriMet. We have professional drivers. They're trained to drive in the snow and ice.
They say their preparation starts months before the chance of winter weather arrives.
We take stock of our winter weather equipment every fall. And this year we have more de-icer than we've had in years past. We have more max trains that have ice cutters that we run overnight in the event that we get freezing rain.
While TriMet attempts to keep as many routes running as possible, they encourage riders to visit trimet.org/alerts for the latest updates if there are delays. And David, for the folks that do have to take their own vehicles out this weekend during the storm, we spoke with ODOT today. They said they are going to be putting down salt in certain locations to combat that threat of ice.
Yeah, and the advice from PBOT tonight, I'm just looking at it here. It says be prepared for worse conditions than expected. So that's what the experts are saying. Thank you, John. Team coverage continuing with Sydney Dorner. Sydney, you talked to an expert about how to stay safe in those temperatures, the 20s, even the teens here.
Yes, David, with temperatures like we're expecting, it's dangerous to be outside for an extended period of time. Today, I spoke with an urgent care physician who says the cold can affect the body in many ways, from hypothermia to frostbite. He says in older individuals and those taking certain medications, the symptoms can come on even faster. Becoming lethargic or confused is an early sign your body may be too cold. If your body temperature reaches anything below 95 degrees, that is a sure sign you are at risk. To avoid this altogether, he suggests avoiding the cold for long periods of time and wearing as many layers as comfortable.
So if you have flexible weekend plans, maybe consider canceling them, especially if they involve going outside. If you're going to go outside, gloves, a hat, those kind of things are really important for protecting your extremities. Frostbite can happen, especially in the fingers and toes.
Dr. Russell also took the time to remind people thermometers placed on the tongue will usually give you a more accurate read than those placed on the forehead. For those who are homeless or need extra warmth, Multnomah County says people are welcome to use government buildings that are open to the public, like libraries and community centers. Multnomah County will announce tomorrow if emergency warming shelters will open. Back to you, David.
And of course, we will bring everyone those details when we get them. Thank you so much, Sydney. Do not forget your pets, by the way. The best place for them in the cold and snow is inside. If that is not possible, a garage, a laundry room. By the way, in Multnomah County, people who own animals are required to provide proper shelter during extreme weather. Well, to stay on top of the latest forecast and get breaking weather alerts for your area, be sure to download the KGW app. Matt's going to be back with your full forecast, including a 7-day. There's a warm up there somewhere coming up in less than 10 minutes. In your headlines this evening, Portland police are now saying that a man who was found dead in the Hazelwood neighborhood earlier this week was shot and killed. Now, late Monday night, police were called to do a welfare check at a home on Southeast 106th, just off Division. They say they found 30-year-old Deshaun Pledger dead inside. The medical examiner determined he died from a gunshot wound. No one has been arrested. Pledger's death is the first homicide of the year in the city. The FAA has opened an investigation into Boeing after last week's 737 MAX 9 door plug blowout over Portland. It is now looking to see if Boeing failed to make sure that panel on Alaska 1282 was properly designed and safe to use. Both Alaska and United have found loose hardware on other door plugs on grounded jets. The regulator has given Boeing about 10 days to provide evidence and information connected to that door plug failure. Tonight, health officials in Southwest Washington are now tracking 6 connected measles cases, all in people who are unvaccinated and related to each other. And now healthcare providers in Oregon are being urged to keep a lookout for patients with symptoms of the highly contagious infection. Now, measles spread from one person to another through airborne droplets when we cough or sneeze.
Sometimes what happens a few days later after the initial presenting symptoms is a rash that starts from kind of head to toe, typical measles rash. If people are having those particular symptoms, we recommend either calling their physician's office or calling the health department.
Anyone 12 months or older is asked to make sure they have completed their measles vaccination. And new data shows 2023 was a tough year for Oregon craft brewing industries, with 30 breweries, cideries, and taprooms closing down, the most in any year. The Oregon Beverage Alliance says it's part of a nationwide trend with changing tastes and the lingering financial effects of the pandemic. Draft beer sales are down nearly 30% from pre-2020 levels. Oregon still has more than 300 breweries, by the way, ranks 7th per capita in the nation. Well, a longtime lumber mill in Washington County is permanently shuttering its doors, laying off dozens of people in a small community. Thomas Schultz is here. Thomas, we're talking about the Hampton Lumber Mill in Banks. How are city leaders reacting there?
Well, David, they say the closure came as a surprise, and of course it's a big blow for the local economy as well. Now, for decades, the timber industry has been integral to the Banks economy. The closure leads to almost 60 people losing their jobs, though they can move to other plants. Now, this isn't your typical closure. Hampton Lumber says the mill is shutting down in part because of new state policies. There's a habitat conservation plan in the works to conserve land for endangered species, though it would cut the amount of timber that can be harvested in state forests by a third. And the Banks Mill heavily relies on timber from the nearby Tillamook and Clatsop State Forest. Now, the Oregon Department of Forestry says the conservation plan is key to protect endangered species. Still, Banks leaders remain concerned about the impact on their town.
There needs to be a better balance between protecting our resources, but also managing them in a way that makes sense for the economy.
And Banks Mayor Stephanie Jones says the city relies on fees from the plant for things like water. She says the school district's budget is also tied to the timber industry too. And this is not a problem just unique to Banks. Over the past 35 years, there's been almost 200 wood processing plants shut down statewide, leaving just 167. We'll have that full story in just a few minutes on The Story. David?
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Looking forward to that. And coming up on KGW News at 6, a fishing tournament brings in a huge haul for the Oregon Food Bank, how their donations will help fight hunger. And meet the world-famous local TikTok star who's taking a bite out of crime, one snack at a time.